everybody. Welcome back to another episode. As you can see, we are in an unusual setting today. I'm not in the usual fortress of solitude. It is we're dog sitting. We're dog sitting at the moment for a delightfully charming chap by the name of Tyson. Don't worry, mate. I was just referencing you. That was all. When I said his name, they went, "Huh? Who are? What are you talking about?" So yeah, an unconventional episode in terms of a break from the usual modus operandi, but hopefully it will be just as much fun as usual. So, as it is with the nature of the content, if you're watching this, you already know why you're here. Um, but let me tell you why it is that we're looking to break into that today. I have just spent a week teaching an intensive, which, for those of you that don't know what that is, it is exactly as it sounds. It's basically 8 to 9 hour days with me putting people through the ringer, and in between each of the modules that we discussed and that we broke down and that we got into the different skills that were entailed, there were some pretty heavy, deep, overly philosophical thoughts. And when I say overly philosophical, I don't mean that that's bad in any sense, because it just provides a deeper, more intrinsic understanding of what it is that we're doing. But they sparked an interest in terms of something that I would like to communicate to you guys en masse. Hey Lokesh, hope all's well. So yeah, that sparked really the want to bring this to you guys. It is essentially three things that you can use that would really help you understand the observations and the deductions that you're making, and to really appreciate why it is that you're looking to make them rather than the making of them themselves, which is how I mean it to be philosophical. It's a little bit self-reflective in terms of what you use this for, but as most people go, turning over to something else that feeds them a tidbit or a piece of knowledge almost immediately, I would encourage you to listen, because it's poignant, it's significant to the world of people reading, observation, whatever word you want to call it. And it's something that doesn't very often get spoken about, because to paraphrase Moriarty, it's just not sexy enough on the surface, and there's only so much sex appeal a gorilla like me can bring to this kind of detail. So, if you're still here, awesome. You've done yourself that favor first of all, and the points that I'm going to make are points that may have been considered fleetingly, somewhat flippantly towards training before, but it is something that most people, not all, most people don't ever consider when it is that they are starting out on this journey. So I'm gonna spend a bit of time talking to you about that today. No bells, no whistles, just straight to the point, details and information that once assimilated, it will make you 100 times better. Not that that's a legitimate rate of inflation on your skill sets, but it will make you immeasurably better, because you will understand more about why you do what you do, rather than how how it is that you do what you do. Typical. Let's see that now. We'll decline that one. How incredibly unprofessional, leaving my phone on. If it rings again, feel free to answer it. I don't know. I don't know. Um, but yeah, Paul, I completely agree with you. I might need to change the font on that. But Paul says that he's amazed at what most people miss, and I am. But we'll get into these details as well in a moment. So here it is. Point number one. It is simply the understanding of your why. Now, when you really think about that, it is something that not many people consider, or it is something that people tend to attribute a list of stock responses to, whether it be, oh, I'm interested, or I really like Sherlock, or it's some other um, aesthetic surface-based response towards topics of this magnitude. When you think about the understanding of your why, what you're really looking to understand is your purpose within this field, whatever that is, and I'm including the full branch of clinical specialists and scientists and observers, and or every single job role that takes stock of noticing information that is communicated non-verbally, all of them, right? Once you understand your why, that provides your purpose. Your purpose is something that drives you to keep doing what you do, to keep being better at what you're doing, and to sharpen the axe, and to drill into the motivation to learn more, to do more, to be better. But this is when the why very often gets conflated. Are you doing that for yourself, or are you doing that for others, or are you doing that for the degree you want, or are you doing that for some other purpose, right? When most salespeople, they drill into something that's referred to as an avatar, which is the ideal person that you're looking to sell whatever it is that you're looking to sell to. And it's not enough for you to have an understanding of, well, I think my target market is males aged 22 from the middle of England, the middle of England, excuse me. These avatars need a life. They need a backstory. They need hobbies, interests, likes, dislikes, traumas, for the marketers to really understand who it is that they're speaking to. So when you think about the nature of observing another person in whatever field, standard, or practice it is that you're doing, understanding why it is that you're truly there, that's arguably one of the most important things that you could get to grips with. Because when all of the other elements seek to rob you of your clarity within those particular moments, emotional qualities being antagonistic to clear reasoning, after all, when there are those moments that will occur, and they will, en masse, vast and often, when you've truly got in here why it is that you're doing what you're doing, and it's right, and it's just, and it's for a for an actionable positive purpose, and not just some self gratification of being the smart guy in the room, spotting things that other people can't or don't know how to. When you understand why it is that you're looking for that kind of information and the service that that can provide, that's going to help to keep you sharp, to keep you in the loop. It is that proverbial zone that you sit in. There was a film on Disney Plus that illustrated that pretty well. What's the name of that film with Disney with Jamie Foxx in? He died, and he went off to the land, came back as a cat. We were watching it the other day with Phoebes, jazz guy. No, you terrible. Soul, thank you. Hocus pocus. Yeah, what is she doing? So, Soul, if you haven't watched it, there is a moment where the souls travel to this plane, and it's a liken to that particular stage where you are, as a human, you're in the zone and you travel to this other dimension, almost within the realms of the film, to be able to facilitate all of this information to seep out your why, your purpose in learning to observe. That's what puts you there, because it's something that you never doubt, you never question. It is immutable. It is ineffable. So what I would encourage you to do in those moments of training to really understand this is consistently ask yourself why until you can stop answering that question. Why am I observing this? Why? 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 It's a little like the baby girl cartoon from Animaniacs. Why? Why? But you really drilling in to that information because as we did on the three tips on the three tips episode before, it's not about you, right? It's not about you. So if in any of those why answers your information is rooted in the self, you need to keep going. You need to keep going because the implications of all of this stuff that you're studying and learning and having an effect on, it's not for you, right? It's not for you. It is for everyone. That's why, some people refer to it as the social sciences. Some people refer to it as social engineering. To observe other people, you've got to observe other people, right? Once you start becoming too self-involved, that's when emotional qualities become antagonistic to clear reasoning and everything starts to fall apart. Good evening, Craig. Afternoon. I don't know, it's dark outside. I'm losing track of it already. Um, so that's job one, understanding your why. Because if you're sitting there thinking, well, I just thought Sherlock was cool. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if that's what it is, that helps you to understand the information that you can use and the information that you can have an effect on and the information that you can assimilate and chop and change and make it fit your life in this unique way because it comes from a fascination with a particular character. Right? It's something that I've particularly had to learn the hard way over the years because what started off as this real kind of nerdy obsession almost has transformed into a career where I really get to have a positive effect on so many people, so many people. And absolutely, Alicia, observation is critical. We do miss so much when we aren't aware. And that brings us back to understanding your why, your purpose, right? Look at the journey that Neo went on in the Matrix. Say what you want about the Matrix trilogy, but it's philosophical practice towards awareness and the expanding of human capacity, in my opinion, it is only my opinion, is flawless for me, flawless. In terms of the actual story of the film, the second two, fourth one, I'm not kind of I'm not referencing, but the journey of the first three, right? You've got Mr. Anderson searching, searching for a purpose. He knows there's something beyond his grasp in that particular stage. So he keeps turning, he keeps turning, he keeps asking, and he keeps chasing the white rabbit, the proverbial element of inquisition in those moments. He meets Morpheus, who says, there is more, but I can't make you do it. You're going to have to figure this out for yourself. And it isn't until the end of the film that his focus changes from being so focused on himself to an expanded awareness of everything that's going on around him that Morpheus says, you're beginning to believe. The film, the film trilogy itself is, uh, hey, Hank, hope all's well. The film trilogy itself is life, is birth, life, and death. And when you look at it in the realization of that, the information that's communicated on a non-verbal level in terms of purpose for Neo understanding his why really helps him to stay on point, really helps him to find his way back from those difficult moments where his mind's disconnected from his body. And you see it all the time on an average everyday occurrence. Those people who are struggling at work, for consistent projects not being completed or projects being completed to a poor standard. missed deadlines, late for work. These are people who are losing their purpose, losing their why they are doing things in amongst all of the noise and mess that's going on in their lives. So everything else starts to fall down around them. So, and I'm being semantic about the therapeutic process, very semantic. So, when they have the assistance of outside forces or from some sort of realization moment within themselves to understand why it is that this is happening and why it is that they are doing what they're doing in their job or in their actions or whatever it is, once they acknowledge that and find that purpose, so much so that it rings true here, everything else becomes easier. Not easy, easier to deal with as a result, because you've got this guiding mantra almost to keep you on track with everything. Truly understanding why it is that you're doing something is huge. It is a flippant comment to make. But for those who are really seeking some sort of proficiency within whatever it is that they're doing, understanding why it is that you're doing that is huge. Is huge to providing completeness within that field. So I encourage you, if you've ever sat down and thought, I would like to learn to observe more people, or read non-verbal communication, or look at this cues, or deduction, induction, or abduction, whatever it is that you're looking at within these fields, stop just for a moment and ask yourself why. And if you're starting to get to the, like, I think this is cool, or I think this is interesting, that's brilliant, right? It is. We would get on like the proverbial house on fire, but go a little deeper. Why do you find it cool? Why do you find it interesting? And you keep plugging away at that line, and then something will be revealed to you. Information that is like metaphorically under a vein almost. That once you find it running through your system, you never have to try to read another book or take another course or listen to some beardy weirdo rant on the internet about it, right? It becomes something that you are intrinsically involved in and aware of. So it's easier to assimilate the information into you because you understand why you're going to either use it or not use it. Purpose. Chase it. Chase it. And if you've never stopped to ask yourself why, and the purpose comes really easily, I'm jealous. In essence, I'm really jealous, because mine took me bloody ages to find. It really did. Um, Alicia says, fascinating. I found that knowing what I wanted to learn from any book I was reading dramatically increased my comprehension. Sounds similar to what you're saying. Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is. Reading with a purpose, right? Reading with a purpose. We're just trying to apply that towards skills, techniques, whether it be this, or reading something else, or learning another skill, or whatever it is. Understanding why it is that you do that, you truly have a bigger awareness of its impact on a grander scale. Um, so that's something for you guys to play around with here. The next thing I would like you to consider is simply understanding what you're noticing, right? And what I mean by that is just the gravity, the gravity of the information that you're noticing at that minute. If you've observed someone struggling with information that they've not yet announced, they've not said anything or reached out to anyone, there might be a little moment where you stop to think, I've observed that, pat on the back. No, it's not about you in those moments. If you really stop to think about, I don't have admins to get rid of bots. I don't. So I will just go through and delete them later. Um, Eric Hunley mentioned there was a setting that I could use, but I've never quite found it. So if it all pops up, feel free to ignore it, or I'll ask Adam about it some other time to see if it's him. But yeah, understanding the gravity of what it is that you're seeing. that provides an appreciation, and with that comes an implicit, compassionate understanding for whoever it is that you're talking to. I've had rants before about my feelings on the nature of sympathy and empathy, right? Sympathy requiring me to have gone through something else that's similar. That's a shot in the dark scenario. Empathy requiring me to put myself in your shoes. I might have made different decisions. So the compassionate level of understanding for something that somebody's going through or making the decisions on, if I can understand the significance of observing that, I can help. A problem shared is a problem halved, right? And it's not some kind of douchey philanthropic sentiment I'm trying to make. I just want people to appreciate more the nature of non-verbal communication in terms of the degree of detail that we simply don't take stock of because we either couldn't care less or don't stop to acknowledge. Right? I could sit here and reel off thousands of cool little stories of things that I've noticed from people freaking out in a manic depressive episode because of how they position their keys, right? To Cocoa Pops on jeans, to positions of drinks on tables. When you frame it like that, it sounds cool and interesting, but it's more than that, right? In those moments, you've noticed somebody struggling, you've noticed somebody battling with something that they don't have a purpose with at that moment, right? Once you know that you've seen something that nobody else around them has noticed, that they've done their best to hide, there is a weight to that information. You think in noticing something that you can really see them? No. You've just noticed something that was hidden. What are you going to do with that after the fact? That's the real gravity towards observing details and information. And it's something that I think is lost, particularly within the internet domain, particularly with YouTube. You know, with the videos of everyone here, when I say everyone here, I mean everyone on YouTube. It appears to be done with the most. Well, I've spotted this. Aren't I clever? It means this, right? And to some, I mean, I try and curtail that as much as I can because I'm trying to explain the information behind. But I bet to some, I come across that way as well, and that's fair enough. But for every one person that isn't on the internet, there is 100 who couldn't give a shit about the infamy that goes with YouTube in that, and they are noticing things in people and helping them day in, day out. That's the real measure of these skills. That's the real measure of observing things and noticing these changes in patterns and whatnot. That, okay? And the final thing I want you to take stock of is diminishing your biases. Right? I'm not going to go too far into the neuroscience because I don't think this is the right format. First of all, and there's tons of stuff online that you can look into the checking of unconscious bias with Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt or Eberhardt. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. She wrote a book called Biased, and it's a great book about checking in with unconscious biases that we have. In short, when we come across information to fit it in with our kind of anthropomorphized view of freeze, fights, and flights and the reticular activation system in relation to data that we observe, we can split it into known and familiar and unknown, right, in those ways. So you can ask yourself a series of questions like, how one for me might be, how do you feel about cat people? Knowing that I'm such an avid dog person as well, right? How do you feel about the fans of Justin Bieber, knowing that I hate everything it is that that guy stands for, you know? Um, but yeah, diminishing bias is by no means an easy thing to do at all. And some people can spend a good long while looking to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it takes a great deal of strength to look at yourself and go, What is it that what is it that is biasing my judgment? What is it that is stopping me from seeing the information as it's presented to me rather than how I think it should be or how I think it is? There was a number of times on this intensive, there was an observation made about some kind of scenario that I'd set up, and because you don't do that, or because that's not how mothers do, and there was a few moments I had to go, that's fine, but I want you to really think about that. Is that true to the situation, or is that coming from you yourself in those moments? Just because that's what you think mothers should do or not do doesn't mean that's not what actually happens. Right? Paul stating, in the social sciences, we learn there's no such thing as unbiased. You have to recognize your bias and why you have it. Absolutely. The recognition is the first start. That's why I say diminish. That's why I say diminish in those moments. The recognition of something that's there is the first step to beginning to tackle it. I know if anybody stops me in the street to talk about Love Island to me, I am immediately awash with irritation. And it stops me from having, the kind of positive conversation that I can have with someone in that moment, getting to learn different opinions about something, which is the realistic outlook. To this day, it will be something that I will continually work on, because to this day, every conversation that somebody's attempted to have with me about Love Island irritates the crap out of me. That is a bias. And there's a bias. And the more we search for these, the more we acknowledge them. It takes a great deal of strength to be able to do that about yourself and say, hey, I have a bias in this area about this particular thing. What can I do to work on that? What can I do to make that better? Because when you're dealing with the nature of observation, these things can arise. They have the possibility to pop up. Because I don't know, what, 7-8 billion of us on the planet? Something like that. That means, mathematically, the potential situations that we could get into would be bloody huge. So there's a possibility for all of your biases to rear their ugly heads within a single conversation, right? Thank you, Craig. I think we share similar biases on the nature of Love Island. So yeah, search for those as well. Search for them. It takes a real truthful journey. And a real moment of honesty with yourself to be able to acknowledge that. But once you do, you're going to be so much sharper as a result, because it's going to be easier, not easy, easier to manage in the moment, So yeah, those are my 3 steps to helping you make better observations. They are grandiose, they are philosophical, but they are no less important than some technique or some quirky little skill that makes you look like the smartest person in the room. Arguably, they are the most important things that you should be able to figure out first. Okay? So I'm going to leave you with a video that I put together a while back. I think it's a separate video somewhere, but it was something that I tried to put together to highlight the nature of biases through observing people in those moments, right? So it's around 8 minutes long. But for now, from me, thank you for listening. If it's one of those moments where everybody would be like, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that. If you want to, brill. But I don't want to undercut the severity of the detail that I've been talking about here. I want it to be about that, right? It's about that in that moment. So if you take away anything from this, take away those 3 thoughts and try and work on them the best you can. Humble bows to you all. Here's the video. As a deductionist, mind reader, mentalist, whatever word you want to call it, there's one salient truth that goes along with it all, is that we as a group try to, through various earthly means, see, hear, read things that are invisible. We try to read things that are invisible, things that cannot be seen normally. Someone's thoughts. Our mental health plays a very big part in what can and cannot be seen. So in order for this next experiment to work, I'm going to have to manipulate the way a whole lot of people see things. Because if it's not given some sort of control, then it can lead to be a pretty big killer. Many have fallen foul of this already, and many more will if something isn't done. And it's something that I believe that the great man, even Sherlock Holmes, would struggle to see. Right, so what we've got is an array of people from all walks of life, right? I want you to just take a few moments, genuinely, to just have a look at each one in detail. Some you'll recognise, some you won't, right? Some names have been changed for anonymity purposes, because some things might be to do with personally them, and I don't want, as I'm putting this out on the internet, I don't want it to be backtracked in case they don't want it, you know, I encroach on any laws or whatever. So just take a few moments. I'm going to step back. You're just going to look over all of them, see what details jump out at you, see what details don't, and then I'm going to ask you about, let's call them positive people, and let's call it the negative side, because there's going to be two distinct groups. Okay, I'm trying to not lead as much in my language as possible, but it's important, like I said before we go into this, that I've not said to you, be it sport, just choose this name or choose this person. You've got free decisions of not only who you choose, but how many of them you want to pick up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you just get a few moments of that till you're happy that you've looked over them all. I'll just stand at one side, then I'll shut my mouth. Okay. Cool. Right. So, yes or no, have you got a few negative names in mind?
Yeah.
Yeah? How many? Just clarify.
2.
2. Perfect. Right? And at this stage, there's no way for me to know precisely who they are. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. So, I'm just going to pick up this one, right?
Okay.
So, was this one of your positive or negative names?
It's a positive.
It's a positive. So what jumps out at you that's particularly positive about this person?
Just looks friendly.
Looks friendly?
Yeah. Got a nice
Cool. Nice smile. Natural.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now logic dictates, with there only being 2 that you've chosen, I could pick any of them. Let's go with this guy, right? Positive or negative? I could go out on a limb and say he was one of the positive ones, as you've only picked 2. Yeah? Okay. So what strikes you about this guy in a positive nature then?
Off the picture, he just looks like a genuine.
Just a genuine humble bloke?
Yeah.
I mean, don't let me put words in your mouth.
No, that's what I was aiming for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you recognise many of these people? Hopefully you will.
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you recognise that guy over there? Yeah? I would ask you what screams out positively about this, but you didn't choose me as a negative one, did you?
No, but I'm starting to.
Okay. That's my security badge picture.
That is a proper mugshot.
Yeah, it is a proper mugshot. That's my security badge picture. Okay, so rather than me just go through 28 times and fail, tell me the 2 people that you chose negatively.
John and Jordan.
Where's John? This John?
Yeah, and
Jordan?
Yeah.
Right. So what strikes you negatively about these 2? I mean, I could think what strikes negatively about this guy, but again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you for your thought process.
Just a smile on that one.
Smile on that one?
Yeah.
And this guy?
Same again. The smile looks a bit forced on that.
Okay, so I'm going to put these ones up here on the arm, right? And I'm going to draw your attention to this. I don't want to touch it, but if you would just pick it up and take out what's inside. 2 pictures, both. If you want to take the post-it notes off, so take the post-it notes all the way off so we can see.
So they're the two I've just taken out the envelope.
And just for...
There's nothing else in there.
Yeah.
We're empty.
I love this sort of dramatic sentiment that many people do of...
I wanted to.
As if to overstate. No, it's my house, I can get away with it. So, I asked you initially to split these guys up into positive and a negative group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you did.
Yeah.
You did exactly that. But you did it backwards.
Okay.
Because these are negative people, but they never killed anyone. This guy's apparently, he was a really famous robber.
Right.
And the Wolf of Wall Street, you might know of him, never actually killed anyone. Which raises interesting questions, doesn't it? Now, like I said, you shouldn't feel bad about any of this, right? And neither should the people at home, because they'll be thinking the same thing. I blatantly manipulated the way you were going to think about this. Blatantly. There's one more killer amongst these lovely people. And something that I would argue even Sherlock himself couldn't see, because he maybe had a touch of it himself. It's somewhat of an invisible disease that affects all walks of life, from anyone, from the young to the old, to the tall, to the short. Everyone faces a struggle. So in short, I reckon we should always be nice, because somebody is always facing a battle that we don't truly understand, ourselves included.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for your time, guys. Take care.